What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Soul Hoops podcast. My name is Jeffrey, and I'm joined by Ryan today. Matthias was unable to join us. He's got some work stuff going on and school stuff going on. But, we wanted to get an episode out talking about the trade deadline, buyout candidates, all that good stuff. But before we get into any basketball, Ryan, how are we doing today?
We're doing good. The rest of the day after this will just be homework, so that will not be fun. But I am excited to talk some ball. The trade deadline was not as eventful, I think, as we all had hoped it would be. But there are a ton of margin moves that I think could be the difference between important seedings or tiebreakers or whatever. So I'm excited to get into it. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's been very beautiful weather in the upper Midwest the last couple of days. So I've been enjoying that, taking my time. Currently trying to get the, nice enough to have a bonfire at night, which has been nice. Yeah,
nice.
but now I'm trying to expel the smell of wood smoke out of my room, out of my clothes. So that's a little rough, but we're getting there. But it's good. I'm doing good.
The weather's been nice, but it still gets cold. Like yesterday,
The wind picks up. It's brutal.
The wind was insane yesterday. Like it was only like 30 degrees Fahrenheit outside, which for Minnesota, Wisconsin is nothing. That's warm for the winter, but the wind picks up. And I was walking home yesterday, and I was walking like 20 minutes, and I was like about to like die. It felt like the wind was so strong, and it was coming at me too.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's I wrap up in my Carhartt jacket anytime I have to go outside. People are like, yeah, it's not cold enough for that. I'm like, yeah, but this thing is like a wall when it comes to the wind. And that's the part that really gets me. It's not the actual cold, but seems like spring's coming faster this year. So I'm kind of happy about that. Winter was kind of miserable because it was so cold without snow, and then there was snow, and then there was like a blizzard. Yeah, it's just not fun. But it's been great other than that. Well, let's talk some trades then. Do you have should we start with like the first couple trades, or you got one that you want to start off on? I have a feeling I know which one you want to start off on.
Let's actually start from the beginning and in chronological order. I don't have the exact order, but
I believe I do.
I believe the Tillman trade was the first.
Let me look. I have every trade made this season up right here. So
okay.
Well, the first no. So the first one was technically last week with Steven Adams getting traded to the Grizzlies Steven to the Rockets for 3 seconds. 2 in this upcoming draft and 1 in next draft, and then Victor Oladipo, who was waived. He's out for the season with an injury, so he'll be able to sign with a team next offseason if somebody wants to pick him up. But not much really to say about that trade. Houston was looking for a backup 5 for next season. I believe who's their backup 5 right now? Is it Jock Landale?
Houston,
who had a good year last year in Phoenix, but obviously CP3 merchant as always with any big.
True.
So he's had a down year, and this provides a little bit of flexibility for them. Gets them a cost controlled, player to play that backup 5. Not really much to talk about on that.
But sorry. Okay, so let's talk about the Tillman trade now, because that happened after. That was the first trade to happen on Wednesday, which was the day before the deadline. The Celtics received
Fontecchio trade as well, but
yes, that also happens.
Which shout out to the Pistons. That's a good get for a singular second round pick. Fontecchio's having a good shooting year, and he's pretty good defensively as well.
Yeah, so. I thought that was a great deal.
Yeah.
I feel like it was less good for the Pistons as much as it was bad for the Jazz. Like, it didn't make any sense that the Jazz did that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like he's going to be a cheap role player, and he's having a really good year for them.
He's been really good for them. I don't understand why they dumped him like that. But Celtics receive forward Xavier Tillman from the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies receive 2 second-round picks. I believe one is 2027.
2027 via Atlanta and
Atlanta,
2030 via Dallas.
And then they also get Lamar Stevens.
Yeah.
That's kind of insignificant. We're not going to go through every single trade like this, but I actually really like this for Boston.
Yeah. I believe Xavier Tillman's still hurt, though. I'm pretty sure. But we'll see. I think I think he has like a knee injury or something. But also the Grizzlies suck, so they're probably not rushing anybody back.
Yeah. But I like this trade for the Celtics a lot because it could have been pretty easy for them to just not make any trade at the deadline at all, given how good they are. And they've had a pretty comfortable cushion over the second best team in the league, whoever that is, for kind of the entire season. So they could have just held all their cards and not made any moves. But, they were linked to a lot of like backup bigs because that's a position of weakness for them. Not necessarily bigs, but like the fact that they don't really have any insurance for if Horford has to miss time at all. God forbid in the playoffs or Porzingis.
You do not want Neemias Queta or Luke Kornet to have to play in a playoff series.
Yeah, definitely not.
They're getting absolute. They're getting absolute. They've been fine in spot minutes in the regular season, but it's a very different scenario when they match up with Milwaukee, which probably there's a high chance that happens, obviously. But imagine they match up with Milwaukee and God forbid Kristaps goes down. Your backup five that Giannis is seeing when he plays with the bench shooting lineup is Luke Kornet anchoring the paint.
Yeah, it was just never going to work. So I like that they were able to go out and get some insurance for if there were to be injuries to their front court. And Xavier Tillman is a guy who has playoff experience. He started as the Grizzlies starting center in last year's playoffs. In Steven Adams' absence, and I thought Tillman played well. I mean, I thought he had that one game where he was like kind of putting the clamps on AD and just was not letting him score. And like,
that was a good game from him.
Yeah, and sometimes like role players being able to do that for a game or for a series is the difference between a championship and a conference finals exit. And the Celtics, they're no longer satisfied with a conference finals appearance or even a finals appearance. They're trying to win this whole thing.
If they don't win the whole thing this year, obviously as a Bucks fan, I'm saying I hope they get smacked in the first round and I can clown them. But I will say this. They are the best team in the NBA right now. They've been an absolute heater. They're playing like statistically, like analytics wise, maybe not the record, but analytics wise, they've been one of the best teams probably like of all time statistically with how dominant they are on both ends.
Yeah.
If they don't win it all, it's honestly like what else can you do to take yourself over the hump?
Yeah, because there are no excuses like at all. Like
your starting backcourt is two of the best. Your starting backcourt is two of the top 5 best guard defenders in the NBA. Your wing duo is two all like, and you're big like Tatum, Brown, and Kristaps are all like legitimate all-star caliber players.
Yeah.
I think, and really what the Celtics need to do is they need to shore up the bench lineup because I think they've been getting okay production out of their bench, but you need something else because it just wasn't working. Like you just can't be okay with that much uneasiness on the bench. And Tillman can do a little bit of good stuff for them. He is undersized as a center. He's only 6'8", but when you're playing it in a niche role, I really don't think it's that big of a deal. I will say he doesn't really fit their offensive style as much. He can't really stretch the floor at all, but neither could Queta or Kornet really. I don't know what Kornet's shooting, but so that's interesting. But it's an overall good trade. He's a flexibility. He can play the power forward alongside Kristaps or play center. But we'll see what happens. And Tillman he's a cheap contract. I believe he was, I don't know what pick he was taken with, but his contract is only like, he was a second round pick. So like he only has like a $2 million contract, and it's expiring as well. So that's interesting. But from Memphis's side of this trade, I think it's interesting with what they've been doing. They're clearing up roster spots and creating cap flexibility. And I think they're going to try to do one of the acquisitions of somebody this summer. I mean, if they wanted to trade the pick, which I don't know, depends where it falls, in the lottery, but
Mhm.
they're going to have a top 10 pick this season. They are having a enormous group of breakout like talent that's absolutely can be playoff players for you on a contending team. Vince Williams Jr. has been like literally one of the best defensive players in the entire NBA this season. And Gigi Jackson has been absolutely electric now that he's getting minutes. And I just want to shout out the Grizzlies organization. They might have some of the best talent evaluation group I've ever seen from
Yeah.
an NBA franchise, like in the last like 10 years. And they somehow get all of these dudes on the cheapest contract possible. And this, like, I know Grizzlies fans are very disappointed in this season because of the Jaw suspension and then all the injuries. But on the bright side, you are finding diamonds in the rough that are able to play real minutes right now. And those guys are establishing themselves as elite role players for you to contend next year. So we'll see. But I do like what Memphis is doing. Tillman's been injured. They want to give opportunity to their other bigs on the roster. So we'll see. You want to do the Morris trade for the Timberwolves?
Yeah. Let's get into that. So this trade, the Timberwolves received Monte Morris. The Detroit Pistons received Shake Milton, Troy Brown Jr., and a 2030 second round pick.
2030 second round pick is wild.
Crazy. Wild. But as a Wolves fan, I definitely like this trade. I think it helps a lot of our weaknesses as a team, namely turnovers, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Timberwolves turn the ball over an insane amount. Like there's no excuses for a team, with this many veterans and a team with like, championship aspirations this season and in the near future to turn the ball over as much as they do.
Yeah.
Right now, the Timberwolves are the 19th best offense in the NBA. And if
the eye test makes it look way worse.
Eye test does make it look worse. But if the Wolves were to somehow get closer toward the middle of the pack in turnovers, let's say they were 15th in turnovers.
Yeah.
I think that alone makes their offense way better, and it makes their offense way more viable for the playoffs. So,
yeah,
hopefully Monte Morris can be a guy that comes in and does that. Track record says that he will, right?
Yeah.
From 2019 to 2023, he was top 2 in assisted turnover ratio in the NBA every single one of those years. He's never averaged over 1 turnover per game ever, even when he was starting for an entire year. The year Jamal Murray was hurt in 22. So I do like this trade for the Wolves a lot. One thing I am concerned about is the injury stuff. Like, Monte has only played 68 minutes this entire season so far because he had that injury that kept him out for so long. So I do think that it might take some time to kind of ramp him up and get him back to how he was last year and the year before that, especially.
Yeah.
So there will be a little bit of a that'll be a process. But as far as the players that the Wolves gave up, Troy Brown was serviceable in the minutes he got. I thought he did a lot of great things. Like he played tough on defense. He could make an open shot. He could pass the ball well. I like Troy Brown a lot. It's sad to see him go, but he wasn't playing in the rotation for a reason, and that's because Troy Brown is so average and like fine at everything, but he doesn't excel at one thing, and that's what's going to hold him back from playing in rotations. He's not a knockdown shooter. He's not an elite defender. He's he doesn't get downhill. He doesn't get in the paint, but he can do all those things a little bit. So as far as a team like Detroit who are trying to get wins, and just not have this season be a complete waste. Like, I think that's a good player for them. Shake Milton was inconsistent, but was fine in Philadelphia when he was there, but kind of inexplicably, he was terrible the entire season in Minnesota. Like, I don't think Shake Milton played one single good game in the time that he was here. So,
dude, you know what's one of my favorite parts about the trade deadline though?
what?
A team will trade a role player that everybody that's a fan of that team absolutely wants off the roster. And every other fan base will be like, dude, he's like low key not that bad. Like, why would they trade him away, dude? Like, dude, like this is a mistake. I saw people saying that about like Shake Milton. I'm like, dude, no, he's been an ass. Same thing. Like, it's so funny because like you can tell who keeps up with
You can
other
tell
teams.
who keeps up with other teams. Like, same thing with the Bobby Portis thing for Milwaukee. Like, anybody who's trying to say that Bobby Portis is a valuable player for the Bucks right now, or that he, isn't as bad as people are saying. No.
Inefficient post-up player is second in the league in post-up touches per game. Let's go. Only Jokic touches the ball more in a post-up situation. God, unbearable.
Shake Milton was awful this year, so he can go. And then a 2030 pick, I'm fine with that.
It's a second. Who cares?
Out. It's a second.
This roster is locked in for the next like 5 years, probably. Like most of the stars, at least. Unless they move one of them, which with how it's been working now, I really don't see that happening. Just because of how good they've all been together.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I think we can skip this Kelly Olynyk trade. Really random, really stupid. Honestly, I don't understand what the Raptors were doing this deadline at all.
Yeah. Just I did think it was. I thought it was weird from Toronto's point of view to send out a first round pick in this year's draft. Like, I get that GMs don't think this draft is very good, but that just seems like a confusing trade. Like, I like Kelly Olynyk as a player, and I like Ochai Agbaji as a player too. This trade didn't make sense. This one left me confused.
Yeah. Well, I just know the Toronto Raptors developmental staff will be turning Ochai Agbaji into OG Anunoby within a year. So that's all I gotta say about that. But yeah, it's Otto Porter and Kira Lewis going to the Jazz, and Otto Porter is going to get bought out probably. So see what happens. This is actually a real trade. Philadelphia 76ers get Buddy Hield for Marcus Morris and Furkan Korkmaz and 3 second-round picks. How are we feeling about this?
I like it for Philly. Like, it is a bit strange how some of the moves they made indicated that they have belief that Embiid will be back for a healthy playoff run. This would indicate that, this trade.
Yeah.
But then I feel like they made some moves, like the Jaden Springer move, for example.
That was wild.
Or the Pat Bev for campaign swap that indicated to me, like, maybe they don't have confidence that Embiid will be back for a healthy playoff run. So,
unless what they're trying to do is juice the offense of this team to try to stay afloat a little bit, which I can see that. One thing I will say about this Buddy Hield move, I don't think this has as much to do with the Embiid timetable this year. Buddy Hield is an expiring contract with $20 million. It was rumored that Philly was also interested in some of the other notable free agent guys this offseason that were expiring because they wanted to get them in the building so they had a better chance of re-signing them. So I think it is interesting because Philly has like one player under contract. It's literally Embiid. It's like the only person under contract next year. So they're going to have to give Maxey a deal, which they should have extended. They should have extended him last offseason because now that price is up like another $40 million probably.
They could have given him less than the max last summer, and that's not happening this summer.
Yeah, and they were dumb. That was stupid, but whatever. Now, you can try to extend Buddy Hield. You have a good backcourt. I do have questions about that backcourt defensively. Tobias Harris is off the books. I would not be surprised if he's back in a Philly uniform, because I don't know if you
Mhm.
really are gonna lose. Like, Tobias Harris isn't great, but like, are you really just gonna lose him for nothing? Like, are you just gonna let him walk? Like, no, probably not. So they get cross-controlled free agents or expiring contracts that are actually good role players. And Embiid, if he does come back this season, or if he doesn't in next year, and you can keep Buddy Hield on your roster, having an elite 3-point shooter next to one of the most dominant big men in the NBA is never a bad idea. So
Yeah.
we'll see it.
Mhm.
Um,
Another trade that I want to talk about is the Thunder trading
Yep.
Trey Mann, Davis Bertans, draft equity. I don't have that pulled up right now exactly what.
I believe it's a pick swap.
Yeah. And then Vasily Micic, I think. I don't know how to pronounce that name, but
I think it's Micic.
Micic. Got it. So Trey Mann, Micic, Bertans out the door for Charlotte's Gordon Hayward.
How do you feel about this trade?
If Gordon Hayward was going to go for that cheap, I don't understand why not a little bit. Like, I don't think this addresses many of their needs.
They
Like,
did said Bismack today.
I'm not moved by that. I'm sorry.
Me
I'm
neither.
not.
In my opinion, they should have gave up 2 first-round picks for Bobby Portis in a 3-year team trade. That would have fixed their issues.
That would have but no, I think everyone was expecting them to get some front court help. I don't think they would have traded for a center to start next to Chet. That would have been too
aggressive,
too much of a change this late in the season. But I think people were expecting that they'd trade for a backup, like a serviceable backup, like a Gafford, for example. He ended up one of the Mavs, or someone like Chris Boucher from the Raptors, who didn't end up getting moved, or a Xavier Tillman from the Grizzlies, who did end up getting moved. I think people were thinking they'd go down that route. But Gordon Hayward on the table for this little, like, I understand why you'd want to jump at that. And Gordon Hayward is still a good player. Like, despite the fact that he's injured every single year, like, the guy that can shoot, he can play make a little bit, he can stay up front, he can stay in front of someone on defense. Like, I do think it makes the Thunder better, but I don't think this really moves where I'd have them in kind of the contender, pseudo contender hierarchy.
Yeah. I agree. I think it just provides them some flexibility, whether he can, I really don't think they would probably change the starting lineup at all. But, if there is an injury, he can play, versatile. If they want to go small, he can maybe play the 4. And this also minimizes the need for Giddey to be on the floor in closing lineups. He just doesn't have to play.
Which is big.
Yeah, because they just let him eat. They just let him sit there wide
open.
Do
you know what teams do on Giddey? A lot of teams have started doing this. They're putting their center on Giddey and just daring him to take open threes.
I mean, think about it. If I'm always going to just use the Bucks as my example, but the Bucks, Giannis is the greatest roaming defender of all time. Giddey's sitting in the corner. Guess what? Giannis, go sit at the edge of the paint and leave him wide open. Do not even close out.
Same thing with the Wolves. If you can put Rudy Gobert on Josh Giddey and let him just roam, it's like you can shut the water off on that OKC offense real quick with that.
Yeah, any roaming capable defensive big man is just would just be able to. It's just not a viable winning strategy to have Giddey out there in closing time. I want to just talk about the Mavericks 2 deals as a whole right away. Because they were pretty much traded. They were done right away. The first one, Dallas trading Richaun Holmes and draft compensation. Doesn't say what it is. For Daniel Gafford, who they're playing right now, and Gafford is absolutely going crazy. Because Luka now has an actual athletic lob threat center who can actually shot block. So that's fun. And then their other deal was Grant Williams, Seth Curry, and a 2027 first for PJ Washington. How are we feeling about these two Mavs moves here? Because I'm moved significantly by these.
I like the trades and it makes the Mavs better, no doubt. But I don't think I'm as moved as maybe you are or as most people are. I don't. PJ Washington is a good player, and yeah. I'm not gonna act like he's not a good player, but I think there's a better chance than people realize that he could be a Christian Wood 2.0 for this team. Like I don't know how much better PJ Washington makes their starting unit.
I just think I don't know if PJ Washington is playing today. I'm not sure. Let me.
He is.
Okay, so here's what I'll say. Also, the Clippers are down 12 to the Pistons. Anyways, so I think that what this does is it provides significantly more offensive flexibility for the roster. Obviously, you're going to be playing Luka ball. There's no question in that. That's just what's going to happen. But PJ Washington is a guy who can be a versatile wing piece, whereas Grant Williams on offense was absolutely atrocious this season. I don't know what was happening there.
I thought Grant Williams was like a home run for the Mavs in the
Dude, he was so good even at the beginning of the year too.
Mm-hmm.
He was so good at the beginning of the year. It's wild. But him coming there, he can pick and pop to an okay level. He can pick and roll. He can initiate in DHOs with Kyrie and come off screens or Luka and other shooters. But this Daniel Gafford move is the thing that I think is the biggest deal for them.
I like the Gafford deal a lot more than I like the PJ Washington deal.
Gafford is a very good backup center, like a very good backup center. And this now provides them the ability to have an actual athletic defensive center on the floor at all times, especially when Lively comes back, because Lively's hurt right now. But when Lively comes back, that rotation is going to be absolutely demonic. There's always a lob threat on the floor. Whereas if the other Mavs centers, I'm absolutely blanking, but you know what I mean? Like Powell. And who else is there? To blanket on this other guy's name, Kleber. Those two dudes, if they're coming in and onto the floor, they're a net negative most of the time they're out there, especially defensively. So I will say that I think this provides them a lot of flexibility, and I do think that PJ Washington is just better than Grant Williams. So I'd rather have him than Grant Williams. Because if Grant Williams has not been hitting his shots the last 3 months, and if he's not hitting his shots, he's doing pretty much nothing for you out there on offense. And in the modern NBA, I just don't think you can afford to do that. Have a player like that playing.
Yeah.
We have the Pat Bev deal. We can quick touch on that.
Yeah.
The Bucks get Patrick Beverley and the 76ers get Cameron Payne and a 2027 second round pick. I like this deal a lot for us. I did love Cam Payne. That guy's a hilarious individual to have on your team. He's an absolute meme at all times, but he's an absolute cone on defense. He's way too small. And the point of attack defense on this team has been absolutely brutal. Obviously, as everyone knows. And I think that getting a guy like Pat Bev, who is also a culture guy, he's very in your face to his teammates. And he already started that. He's been here one day. He played last night. He already started that. He pulled out the clipboard in timeouts, started yelling at Brooke. And
I love Pat Bev, man.
And also, he pulled up to the presser with a Miller Lite, which is absolutely a Milwaukee classic. That is everybody in Milwaukee is going to love him for that. So I will say, I really like this. The Bucks bench defense has been a bigger problem than their starting defense. A lot of the defensive issues have been pointed on like Malik Beasley and Dame, but obviously this is a little skewed, but like the starters for the Bucks among like 5-man lineups, if you just put those guys in against everybody else in the NBA, they have like a 107 defensive rating among other and that's like first of 5-man lineups that have played like 500 plus minutes, 400 or 300. But as soon as Pat Connaughton checks into the game to be the other guard on the roster up to check in, absolutely brutal. That guy can't guard anything, which is why they were trying to shop him. But this will help that. Very similar to what we did with PJ Tucker, just in a different mold. In 2021, we needed a wing guy, a wing defender, and in 2024, we need a guard guy. And for a second round pick and a minimum contract, I can't really hate on it too much.
Yeah, I really like it for the Bucks. I'm a big Pat Bev guy. I think that we've seen time and time again how he comes into these teams and situations and he transforms the culture. The fans always love him. He gets his teammates playing defense. Like if you want your team to be bought in on the defensive side of the ball, bring in Patrick Beverley because he's going to make them work. And I think that's something that we've seen that the Bucks need. They need defense, perimeter defense, perimeter defense, perimeter defense the whole year. Yeah. And I don't think Pat Bev is Alex Caruso on the defensive side of the ball, but he's capable, and I think you can close games with him instead of Beasley. That's a big upgrade.
So we haven't even had an episode yet since Doc Rivers has gotten hired.
True.
But Doc has been playing a lot of Giannis small ball 5, and it's been absolutely dominant when it's out there. Nobody can guard it. When Dame is on the court and Giannis is playing the 5, it's broken. It's broken. There's nothing you can do about it. And if the Bucks in the playoffs and going into the season want to run that small ball lineup to close some games, when a lineup of Dame, Pat Bev, Middleton, Jay Crowder, and Giannis will be amazing. It will be a great lineup because Chris can guard Chris has been okay on defense. People won't say that, but he has been okay for being a slow, unathletic dude who's had injuries. He's been okay. You have wing defenders. Giannis is out there anchoring because let's just face it, most teams are not getting to the paint at a level that is really like where Giannis is going to be. And Giannis is a good rim protector. So that is like the small ball lineup. And I think that would literally be amazing. That would just be awesome. I mean, I'm just imagining a Boston series where that's the closing lineup against the Kristaps, JT, Brown, Holiday, White lineup. And it's like, okay, well, Drew's playing spot up and whoever's initiating, Pat Bev will catch them at half court or in the back court. Like, he's a Mr. 94 feet. So he'll pick those dudes up and you let Chris and Jay kind of do their thing on Tatum and Brown because let's face it, those dudes are just going to chuck up step back threes all game. So why does that matter? And then, Giannis can sit in with whoever is posting up in the corner. And then, you let the other guy kind of, do Kristaps because even though Kristaps has been very, very good posting up this season, there is times where they don't do it a lot. So, it provides them a lot of flexibility. I think Pat Bev could start if they wanted to do that, if they needed to get defense, but Malik Beasley's been so good this year. So and a lot of people are like, you need to get Malik Beasley out of the starting lineup. Sure. That's great in theory. Great. Awesome. But I understand that the bench production has not been there with Bobby having such a down year, but dude, he's shooting 45% from 3. He's been absolutely amazing this season for us as a minimum contract guy. So it's just
it doesn't need to be an either or thing, right? It can be some games you might want to go for more offense. Some games you might want to go for more defense. It just depends on the matchup and how they're each playing.
Yeah,
I love it from Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's a great deal. I know they were trying to go big fish hunting. They tried to get Wiggins. They tried to get Bruce Brown. Both those guys ended up staying where they're at. But it's interesting. We'll see what happens. The Bucks didn't trade any of their long-term assets or any of their young guys, so I can't hate it too much.
Yeah.
We got 2 more real trades. Boston getting Jaden Springer for a singular second-round pick. Absolute steal for Boston. I don't know what Philly was thinking with that move at all.
It was weird, and like the Philly fan we know, Cy, was losing his mind in group chat, and it's like
because Jaden Springer is one of his favorite players on the roster. Was one of his favorite players on the roster, and Jaden Springer's been playing well. He literally just absolutely clamped Curry the other game, and Luka, and then you trade him for a singular second-round pick for a cost-controlled young guy with 2 years left on his deal. I'm pretty sure. I don't understand that. And then there's 2 really dumb trades. Delano Banton for a protected 31 through 55. That pick's not going to convey. And then Corey Joseph for a second-round pick who was just waived right away. But then the last trade that we got here, Royce O'Neal and David Roddy to the Suns for Jordan Goodwin and Keita Bates-Diop. Jordan Goodwin, Keita Bates-Diop, Yuta Watanabe, and Chimezie Metu. Jordan Goodwin and Keita Bates-Diop went to Brooklyn, and Memphis got Yuta and Chimezie Metu.
Yeah. I like it for the Suns. I like Keita. I like Metu, and I do like Watanabe, but I don't think we're going to cut it. Sometimes it can be kind of hard to get away with depth by committee. Sometimes you just need one guy who you can rely on to take the shots and defend their players. And I just don't know if the Suns were really wanting to do that with those 3 guys I just mentioned, and Godwin too, who they got in the Beal trade. But Royce O'Neal is a good player. I know a lot of teams were really looking to try to make offers at him because he's just a solid player, solid shooter, solid defender. I think he'll be a good fit with Phoenix, and he has experience playing with KD in Brooklyn. I don't think this trade is a needle mover by any sense, but sometimes you need a role player to just step up in a playoff game and hit 5 threes, and I think Royce O'Neal is capable of doing that. And nothing else really to say on my end.
Yeah, it was a good trade for what they gave up. I do hate that the Nets were able to feed into their overvaluation delusion of their players even further by being able to get 3 second-round picks for just Royce O'Neal. But whatever. The Nets didn't move Dorian. They didn't move. They traded Spencer Dinwiddie for Dennis Schroeder for whatever reason. That was a weird trade.
Yeah, nothing else. Just 1 for 1.
They didn't move Claxton. They didn't move Daron Sharp. They didn't move anybody other than Royce and Spencer, which is just they're committed to it. I'll give them that for sure. They're committed to being mid. Sorry, somebody's just wailing on their horn outside my house. But yeah, it's they're committed to the grind of being mid as hell. So for that, I give them applause. You got some buyout guys that you want to talk about, or any teams that might be looking? I know Spencer Dinwiddie just officially did sign with the Lakers for a $1.5 million deal. They used the rest of their mid-level exception.
So yeah, I've got a list written down of guys who have either already been bought out or who are expected to be bought out.
Yeah.
So Kyle Lowry, a veteran, a winner, a proven, championship level point guard, even though he's not the same player as he was. That's a valuable player. He just is. Maybe he's not playing any more than 10 minutes a night, but
yeah,
still, he's an important player that I think could help a team. You look around the NBA for teams that could use extra guard support. I think he could fit right in with pretty much any of them.
Yeah.
Danilo Gallinari.
Yep.
Is another guy, another veteran, a shooter. He's played in the NBA for a long time. I'm sure teams will take a look at him. I think that's a guy that Minnesota could pick up and he could really help out that offensive spacing off the bench. Marcus Morris. I think he's a guy that teams could go after.
Yep. For sure.
Joe Harris, I don't think is very good.
I doubt he gets a contract.
He
might be out of the league after this year, man. He's a shooter who can't defend and he can't hit shots now. His jump shot is gone.
Yeah, he's pretty washed, and if he does get signed, I don't expect it to be by a playoff team.
Forever a Bucks legend, though, missing 5 straight wide open shots in the 2021 playoffs. Thank you, buddy.
Oh man,
Bucks legend. All Buck fans love them some Joe Harris. Put his jersey in the rafters, honestly, for us.
Robin Lopez.
That guy's not gonna be.
No.
Dude, did you see the picture of him on the sideline?
Yes, he's hilarious.
Dude,
he's the funniest player in the NBA. I love Robin Lopez. Matthias ran into him at
really?
at a concert randomly.
Dude,
has he told you about that?
No.
Okay, this is for the. All right, I can't explain it as well as he can, obviously. But
we can ask him next pod.
I'll make him how he ran into Robin Lopez. Super random in an elevator.
I feel like he's told me that, but he didn't tell me like the actual story.
Yeah, we'll ask him this time.
Yeah.
Davis Bertans.
Yeah, he's been okay.
He's like the same as Gallinari to me. I
think he's a little bit
probably better.
He's probably a little bit better just because he's not 38 years old.
True. But similar mold of player, veteran shooter.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a team that wants a little bit of obviously he's not a good defender at all. But if you want to get someone who can slide in if there's injuries, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
A strong defensive team. Do the Wolves have an open roster spot?
They have 2.
Okay, yeah. So if the Wolves were to pick up Bertans or Gallinari, he's not gonna play. He's not gonna play, but God forbid Naz Reid, misses time. He can slide in and just spot up in the corner. Great.
I mean, the Timberwolves they've got 2 open roster spots. They're gonna sign someone.
The Bucks have an open one too. I would assume they go for a 3-4 type of guy or a big.
Yeah.
If we would have made another deal, I would have been hammering for Bismack or Nerlens Noel, and then just another wing guy. Because we would have had 2 open spots, but we don't.
I think the Wolves are looking for literally anyone who can hit an open shot and not turn the ball over 1,000 times. I think those are the only qualifications.
Pat Connaughton is your man. Should have called.
I would be upset.
I would hope so. That would be horrible.
Killian Hayes.
Yeah, he just got straight up waved. Matthias, I don't think I've seen someone be more upset. He tweets out every single time Killian Hayes does something bad. He tweets out or says, "Man, I had him as my number 3 prospect on my board. He thought he was going to be." And you know what? Hey, he's a Grizzly anyways, so it's fine. He'll be a Grizzly.
He'll get.
You know what's funny though? Shams or Woj said that they were trying to trade him, right?
Mm-hmm.
They said they weren't getting enough return back in trade talks, and then they waived him. Dude, ship the guy out for nothing.
You know who's ecstatic about this? Jaden Ivey.
Let's talk about this, and I want to talk about Jaden Ivey and the Pistons. Because I have a controversial thing that I'm going to say regarding that roster and that team.
I'm ready for it.
Let's finish this.
Okay.
Otto Porter Jr., did you say?
I did not say him.
Otto Porter is going to get bought out.
What
if he
team
can
is
be
he on?
healthy for a playoff run, he got traded to the Jazz.
I completely missed that.
Yeah. He was in the Kelly Olynyk trade.
Oh, okay.
Toronto amping up the veteran dude. Never mind. I'm not even going to comment on that franchise. They did good things with OG and Pascal. So I'm just going to let it be. I'm going to let it be. You can't win every time.
Evan Fournier is another guy I have.
He got shipped to the Pistons.
Do
you think he gets traded?
I think he gets bought out.
I don't think he does. I think they're going to want him. They wanted Gallinari and Muscala because they were vets that could shoot. I bet they keep him because he's a shooter.
Interesting.
I really like what Detroit did with this deadline, man. Like, they got Malachi Flynn. We didn't talk about this trade, did we? No, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
So let's talk about this trade really quick because this is actually kind of a big one. So New York got Bojan Bogdanovic, Alec Burks, and they traded away Evan Fournier, Malachi Flynn, Quentin Grimes, Ryan Giacomo, and 2 second-round picks. New York gets veteran bench depth, adds to that. That's not really the part I want to talk about. Everyone understands what they were doing. They wanted a backup creating offensive spark plug guard, and they needed a little bit more size, 3-4, because Josh Hart can't be your backup power forward forever. So that's part of that. But Detroit getting Quentin Grimes for old, aging, non-core players and not having up any assets for him is a steal. It's a steal.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make my Pistons take. The Pistons are better without Cade. And I think Ivy might be better than Cade. Like, genuinely. They have been absolutely brutal when Cade Cunningham is playing. And I don't think Cade is a bad player. I'm going to put that out there. His style of guard play does not fit this roster or at all. At all.
I think that they need someone who's going to play with pace.
And Ivy does that.
Cade Cunningham.
Ivy runs.
I don't know. Like, I do agree that I like the way that the Pistons play better when Ivy is the main guy, because he runs, he plays extremely hard. Not to say Cade doesn't play hard, but Ivy is one of the fastest players I've seen in the NBA as far as how fast he can get down the court. It's like, and he's got like freak of nature athleticism. The jump shot is really coming around. The vision is coming around.
He's been shooting so well recently.
Jaden Ivey, he has been really good, and I do agree that I do think that's him as kind of the primary initiator, lead ball handler, point guard, or whatever you want to call it, is a better fit with the rest of the roster than Cade. Not again, that's not to take anything away from Cade. That's just how the roster is right now.
And I think they could coexist. I think they can coexist together if they do. But the roster does need to take a turn. But man, I enjoy what Jaden Ivey is putting out there when he's the only guard. I mean, they beat the Kings the other day by like 20 something, and Jaden Ivey was absolutely torching them. Absolutely torching them. I think he hit like was that the game he hit like 7 threes or something?
Which game?
I don't know. The Kings game. He hit like 7 threes, dude.
Yes. I think he took 7 threes and made 7 threes, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was 7 of 8. I think it was 7 of 8.
But it was an efficient game, and the Pistons won 2 in a row. Like,
man, they're up 13 right now on the Clippers. They held them under. They're holding them under 50 points, almost halfway through the third.
Wow.
So
3-game winning streak from Detroit would be crazy. That would be insane.
I'm saying, man,
that would be insane.
This is what was so frustrating for the Pistons and Pistons fans. I think there's clear talent, high-end talent on that roster. They just cannot win games. And it's becoming more and more glaring that Monty Williams was not the move, obviously, as we've seen.
Yeah.
The guy has no idea how to manage a young roster, in my opinion. He is absolutely built to have veteran players that know what to do because they have bad habits. They instill bad habits, but they're getting better. And I think that's just playing time and cohesion. But yeah.
The thing with Monty is that he just gets stuck in his ways. Like, as far as how he manages the roster on the court. A big part of NBA coaching now is managing the locker room and being a leader. And I think he really was that in Phoenix before KD got there. So I do want to give him his credit. Like, you don't become the highest paid coach in NBA history if you are not a good coach in any situation. So I don't think Monty is awful, but coming into this Detroit season, you know, it was just bad right away, and a lot of that is because of the roster, right? Like, the roster was it was going to be hard for any coach to make anything out of that roster that they had early in the season. But Monty just gets stuck in his ways, like not playing Ivy because he's not defending, opting for multiple big men in every single lineup you play. That doesn't happen in the modern NBA. Like, only like 2 teams do that, and that's because they have multiple all-star level bigs on their team, like Cleveland or Minnesota. The all bench lineups would just derail every single Pistons game.
You remember when they were up 20-25 on the Celtics? They put in an all bench lineup led by Killian Hayes, and they blew the lineup in 2.5 minutes. They blew the lead in 2.5 minutes.
just inexplicable, like, old school coaching decisions that just don't make sense in 2024 NBA. And I don't even know where I'm going with this, but like, the fact that Jaden Ivey is finally getting consistent minutes let alone playing well.
Took till January,
and he's thriving in these minutes. Like, if, like, obviously there's not much to be happy about if you're a Pistons fan, but if I'm a Pistons fan, I'm looking at Jaden Ivey, and I'm getting pretty excited for what he can turn into.
Pistons are only 1 game back from the Washington Wizards.
Oh,
they're no longer. If they win today against the Clippers, they're up there. They're moving up. They will have.
You remember when
Kuzma? Yeah.
At this point, it's don't be that team,
dude.
They're about to lap you in the standings,
dude. When he said that, the Pistons had 3 wins and they had 5. It's like, dude. It's like, dude, you're just as bad, dude. You just won a random game. The only game. You know what separated their 2 losing streaks too? They beat the Pistons. That's the only game they had won in like a month. Yeah, God. The bottom of the conferences right now is rough in the East, dude. like Pistons have 8 wins right now. Wizards have 9. Charlotte has 10. San Antonio has 10. Like, the Raptors are like have 19 wins, and they're like firmly ahead of both, like, all 3 teams below them. This is like generationally bad at the bottom of the conferences. I saw a stat. I don't remember what the exact win total was, but I think it was like, this is the first time that there's ever been like 2 or more teams that are on pace to win like less than like 17 games, like something around there, like, which is crazy.
That's just how the league is moving, though. Like, with the new CBA, especially, and the things that NBA have done to increase parity, there are a few like elite teams at the top. There's a huge middle class of teams, and then there are a few awful teams, and that's just kind of how it's becoming right now.
Yeah. It's the gap between the top and the very bottom is growing exponentially right now.
Yes.
So it's rough. We'll see what happens with that though. You got anything else you want to talk about? All-Star break is coming up next week.
Yeah. All-Star. So I mean,
they released that. Do you see that like LED court that they're using?
That's stupid. I'm sorry.
It looks cool though.
Stop doing that. Like, I don't know.
You remember when when they did that release for those like electronic printed jerseys with like the LCD on them? Do you remember that? Where like the number could change, and they never released. They didn't even put them on a game.
Whatever. I don't know. I just think that I think there are some things that you just don't need to mess with at all.
It is cool though, like
the ball being one of those, and the court being one of those, and the nets being one of those. Just don't change those. Just keep them the same.
Yeah. I think it would be cool. If they're using I don't know if they're using the LCD court in the actual game, but I think it would be cool. It will be cool for the like the skills challenge and stuff where like it lights up the path, and like the 3-point contest where like if they hit like the money ball rack, like it like flashes like a logo and stuff. Like that's pretty cool. But I do not want to see an actual game where it's like literally looks like LeBron's Space Jam movie and there's like cartoon characters running across the court when like a 3-pointer is hit. Cause like, can we get serious for a second?
Yeah.
But yeah, not much else to talk about. We'll probably more to talk about. It's been a slow actual basketball right now and like news stories.
I gotta be honest, like it's hard for me to watch games sometimes, like at this point in the season. Like,
yeah,
you know, the beginning of the season, you get so excited.
You're watching like 6 games a day.
You're watching like you've got multiple games on each screen on League Pass, just loving it. But at this point in the season, like obviously with now that we're just past the trade deadline, you got to check in with some teams and see how they look a little bit and see, you know, how things are changing. But I'm not watching Sacramento Kings games just like on
dude, and it's Wednesday so like Thursday. I'm glad you said this because I always never want to be the one to say it, but like, dude, even if their record, like it's like some of these teams are rough to like the Heat, right? They're the 7th seed right now. They're hard to watch.
They're hard to watch.
Like I turn the games off a lot of the time. Like the Pacers right now, too, absolutely brutal to watch. The defense has been is still horrid, and the offense has been really coming back to earth for them. Not a fun watch a lot of the time. Not a fun watch. Like
Pelicans, like I'm going to sleep. I'm going
those West Coast games, man. A lot of them, I'm just like
they're rough.
Unless it's a really big matchup, I'm heading to sleep, man. I'll check the scores.
We aren't even on the East Coast, right? So the games for us don't even start that late.
Yeah.
I just can't watch a lot of these teams. That's just how it is. I just can't.
Yeah.
So,
but like it's still like even like there's so many bad teams and a lot of the teams that are even like the mid teams, like they've been so hurt. Like for example, like
the Magic are healthy now, but they were hurt for so long.
Yeah.
And they fell in the standings a lot in January.
Yeah, it's been brutal for them. I will want to shout out one team, or actually one player. Shout out Trae Young. I'm giving him his love because that guy might get more unworthy disrespect than any player I've ever seen in the NBA for whatever reason. And I just want to shout him out. But there's a team that I do want to say this last 5-10 minutes here. And I think everyone probably knows if they think hard enough what team I'm about to say is going to be the biggest disappointment of this entire season for me. The Chicago Bulls.
We got to talk about the Bulls. Yeah.
This is the most pathetically ran organization in the NBA. I don't even care. There's bottom feeder teams that obviously have been way worse than them for longer. This is malpractice the way that this organization is being ran right now. Okay. You are the 9 seed right now, 25-27. And you are talking about, you get up there and there's teams that are calling for Drummond, DeMar. I guarantee you a couple of teams called for DeMar. Guarantee it. Caruso. I know multiple teams were calling about Caruso. The Bucks were
Caruso
calling
stuff
about.
was no smokescreen.
No.
Teams were willing to give real assets for Caruso. I'm confident of that.
Zach LaVine now had season-ending surgery because you're trying to ship him to Detroit for Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks deals.
People are saying that's not what happened. That's dead ass what happens. Him and Clutch had to choose between either likely getting traded to Detroit or opting for a season-ending injury, and he chose season-ending surgery.
He would rather not play than play for your team or Detroit.
Yeah, that's awful,
dude. Disgusting. And then Arnie Karnisovas gets up at a podium on a press conference post trade deadline and says, "Hey man, we think we can compete right now. We're not that far out. We're only 3 games back from the A seed. We'll have a play-in spot locked in right now." Dude, why are you he said, "We're not just going to make a trade just to make a trade. Why would I want to get worse when I can try to get better?" You don't have any assets, like high-end assets other than players. Recoup their value. Recoup it. You're still betting on Lonzo Ball coming back? Is that what you're doing? He's going to come back and he's going to fix the team? Dude, ship everybody off and let Kobe White take 30 shots a game, okay? That's what people would. I guarantee you Bulls fans would rather watch Kobe White shot chuck for 4 quarters straight than this brand of basketball with these level of players on it.
Yeah. I have 2 fun facts about the Chicago Bulls. Are you ready for them?
I think I know what one of them is.
First fun fact is, can you tell me the last time they've made a player-for-player trade?
I knew this one. It is like December of 2021 or something.
Yes. We are in 2024 now. For reference. We are
you know what that trade was? You know what the last actual trade they've made was? Trading 2 second-round picks to move up in the draft. That was the last actual trade they've done.
Yeah. Here's the second fun fact. This season, they have made one roster transaction. Can you tell me who that was involved?
Is it a signing or?
I'll just tell you. They signed Kenny Beecham, KOT4Q, with a 24-hour contract. That's the that's the only roster move they've made the entire fucking year. Was signing a podcaster to a 1-day deal
for a media event.
For a media event. They have not done a single other thing this entire season, and it's
dude. Dude, shout out Kenny though. Did you see his video about the Bulls? Yeah. Dude, that guy was about to like crash out. He literally crashed out live on game.
It takes guts to do that too, because he's got like
millions.
He's got
connections.
Yeah, yes. And he's got connections with the Bulls too. Like, yeah. It's
shout out him though. Unapologetically, we'll talk about whatever is on his mind.
Yeah, it's crazy how one of the most storied franchises in all of sports have spent the last 25 years in the gutter. Right. I know they had they had MVP Rose, and what happened to him is obviously tragic, and it's hard to recover from that, obviously, but they have just been, the figureheads of
they're the laughing stock of the league.
People talk about the Brooklyn Nets and Sean Marks being an awful front office, which is true. People talk about Troy Weaver being an awful GM for Detroit, which is true. AK with the Bulls is, to me, way worse than either of those. Like,
yeah,
he's not even being aggressive. He's not even making trades. This team has been in the play-in, and the past 2 deadlines they have not made a trade. The past 3 deadlines they haven't made a trade. It's just bizarre to me how like this is even allowed to happen. Like, who is allowing this to happen? Where
Jerry Reinsdorf, the worst owner in all of major sports.
yeah,
Both of it, he owns 2 Chicago teams, the White Sox and the Bulls. Both of them are ran horribly. Both of them do nothing to improve.
the White Sox are going to get moved. Like,
yeah,
that's how bad of an owner he is. It's just ridiculous. Like, I feel bad for Bulls fans because like,
dude, we have Bulls
I
fans
couldn't
friends
imagine.
on Twitter, mutuals who are Bulls fans. They will tell you they're Bulls fans. They still watch all the Bulls fans. They aren't even caring about the Bulls team, dude. Like our very good friend Fatmir, he's a great writer, a sports writer. He also makes YouTube videos. He doesn't even care. Like he cares, obviously, dude. He's he probably cares more about the Pacers this season than the Bulls. The Bulls,
He's a Bulls fan, but like he's
he did. They all know what it is. They all accept it.
yeah.
Or our
He
we have a good friend X.
Yeah.
Rockets. He's like, I'm just gonna follow the Rockets this season.
Yeah, the Bulls fans we know, they're Bulls fans, but they don't even care. Like, they all have second teams that are really their favorite teams at this point.
Yeah, because they know what it is. They know they're not gonna make a move. They know they're not gonna do anything. They know they're gonna be mediocre. And there's no like Kobe White right now, obviously, but there's not like a budding superstar. Like Kobe White's really good. I think he'll probably be like a borderline all-star player, probably maybe an all-star player. You know that type of mold. But there's no budding superstar young player on the roster that's waiting. They don't have any draft. It's not like they're going to get a good draft pick because they're literally the 9 seed every year.
Yeah,
Like,
and if they
they
were
didn't
going to
even make
get
the
draft
playoffs last season,
no, they didn't, and
and they don't have their pick, dude. This if
especially when DeRozan and Caruso are the most valuable of assets they'll ever be. Like, DeRozan's value is only going to go downhill from here, and I think it's going to go downhill fast. And Caruso, his play isn't going to decline, but are you getting a first round pick, or are you getting the rumored multiple first round picks next year or in the summer like you could have this deadline? I don't know about that.
I think they could get, if they try to trade him in the summer, I think they get 1 pick.
They get 1, but I don't think they're getting.
I know a team that
getting a haul of assets.
No.
I
know the Bucks would probably, if they were like, hey, on draft night, the Bucks will have a first and a second to trade. Like they'll have a first in that draft, and they'll have Portland second. If they were like, hey, we'll give you our first in this draft tonight if you send us Caruso, they would probably do that. But you're not getting multiple firsts. You're just not. You're not getting multiple firsts from a contender for a dude on an expiring contract next season who's about to get paid, dude. If Caruso keeps up his play next season to anywhere close to this level, he's getting like a $15 to $20 million contract.
Yeah.
Like, not even like, it's just not going to happen. I don't know. And like, dude, if Franz Wagner turns out to be like, he's already very, very good. If he turns out to be all-star or a superstar level player, develops that way, dude, you gave that up for Nikola Vucevic, which we look back on that trade. Vuce was good at the time. He was an all-star player at that time, which I understand. But like, then not doing anything, like Vucevic has regressed more in the last 3 years than I think I've ever like ridiculous amount. And they had to pay him last offseason because otherwise he walks for nothing, and you have no starting center because you traded away your starting center for him.
Yeah, it's fine to make mistakes as a GM. Every GM,
you have to admit your mistakes though.
But you have to be willing to admit that you made a mistake and and course correct as soon as you realize, because you're going to get left behind, and the entire NBA has left the Bulls behind. It feels like you've got to be willing to adjust and maneuver on the fly. Sometimes, it works out when you double down and you have faith in something that might not have worked. But
I think it's very funny because the Bulls had that season in 2022 where they beat up on a bunch of really bad teams, never beat 2 teams over 500 the entire season. They were the 1 seed, and then Lonzo got hurt and they fell down to, I think it was the 6th seed. Man, I'm saying this right now. Imagine if they did what the Pacers did when they were kind of a mid-playoff team with Sabonis. They're yeah, we got an all-star caliber player and in DeMar, and Vucevic is still pretty decent, and we have LaVine. Maybe we aren't going to be able to take that step to contention. Let's trade those guys for a couple of picks and maybe a young player. That's what the Pacers did. They realized they were going to be in a purgatory state. They trade Sabonis to the Kings. They get Halliburton back, and now Halliburton's a superstar, borderline superstar point guard for them.
Could you imagine if the Bulls were to somehow have pulled off a Zach LaVine for Jaden Ivey swap?
Yeah,
that would have been a home run.
Or for the Bulls. I'm trying to think of a team that had a young star player. Yeah. Imagine you're hey, we're going to be mid. And the Rockets said they were trying to buy on a star player. Imagine you're hey, give me Jalen Green last season for LaVine, and that'll eat up your cap space. Because they had $80 million in cap last season, the Rockets. Imagine you're hey, I know you really believe in Jalen Green, but hey, bro, we'll send you LaVine and a pick. Okay. Give me back Jalen Green. Oh, Jalen Green is getting a real opportunity to and a new scenario with a better structure around him. Oh my God, he buds into an all-star. He's averaging 25. No. Guess what you're doing now? You're a 9 seed who's going to run it back again, and you're gonna have to overpay. They're gonna have to overpay DeMar to stay, or lose him for nothing.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to give him $100-something million, dude. It's just I don't know. It's just one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. It's really it angers me, actually, and I do feel bad for Bulls fans because this franchise should be at the next level. They should be operating as if they're one of the most storied franchises in the NBA history. They literally had a GOAT player on their team at one point, who doesn't even associate with that city or organization anymore, by the way, because of how shitty they treated him on his way out from ownership and, front office.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like we can probably get off that topic. I think we can wrap up here. Appreciate everyone who's made it this far into the video. We'll be back soon. Hopefully next weekend. We're all very busy right now, so hopefully next weekend we can talk some more hoops, maybe some small star stuff. Maybe we'll come up with a fun segment that we can do. But appreciate anyone who's made it this far. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all of that good stuff, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.
Yes, peace out.